Let's start with a little nigun, mostly for my sake, to reground myself after after what I'm just coming out of. So you're welcome to join me since I think it's one many of you will know. Hirirai, rai, hinai, hirirai, rai, hirai, hirirai, rai, ai, rai, nai, hinai. Yiddy die, 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 yiddy die, 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 yiddy die, die, nan, nai, nai, no. Yiddy die, die, nai, nanny, nai, 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 yiddy die, 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 die. Beautiful friends, we're going to dive into dreams. We're going to dive into dreams. Before I do that, I just want to give two plugs. One that hopefully you'll be joining us tonight for our Minkoff lecture with Rabbi Jack Moline. If you're not joining in person, you can join virtually as always. And also tomorrow morning, we have a conversation with a Native American leader for our Native Jewish Dialogue series um, around indigeneity and how that relates to Jews and to natives. On to dreams. We are here in the Torah of the mind, that so much Judaism these days is attempting to be on the surface level. It's about bagels and jokes and outward identity. And our argument at VBM is that Torah is much deeper. Judaism is much richer, and we have to go deeper, and in particular into the Torah of the mind. The mind and soul, of course, become equated. Soul becomes psyche. We'll get to Jung soon, and Jung will lead us in that direction as well. But let's start with a poll question on dreams. Dreams have deep spiritual significance within them, and we should invest in interpreting them with a spiritual guide. Dreams reveal our unconscious thoughts and are worth diving into with a professional. Dreams are just the random firing of neurons and are meaningless, and we should ignore them. Which of those most resonates for you? Okay, let's see our results. I can never choose just one, but I do. Thank you. 10% find spiritual significance in their dreams. 50% find psychological significance to their dreams, and 40% find them to be mostly meaningless. Okay, great. So few experiences are stranger than dreaming. How is it possible that while we sleep, we're visited by such vivid visions throughout the night? Where do the images and narratives come from? What, if anything, do they mean? Throughout human history, various civilizations have had different understandings of dreams. The ancient Egyptians approached dreams as a different form of seeing, and even trained dreamers who advised on government decisions. More on that soon. The ancient Greeks and Romans understood dreams as a meeting place of the past and the future, where the dead might visit us and the future might be predicted. Dreams have woven themselves into the great dramas of Shakespeare. Quote, "We are such stuff as dreams are made on," says Prospero. To sleep, perchance, to dream, intones Hamlet. And of course, there is the ending of A Midsummer Night's Dream, which suggests the audience has dreamt the whole play. Huh. Oh, I hope I didn't spoil that play for you. But it suggests that the audience dreamt the whole play. You have but slumbered here while these visions did appear. For the pre-modern human, dreams were a strange magic. When it comes to modern approaches to dreams, there are three main camps. Camp number one asserts that dreams are meaningless, merely the result of neurochemical processes in the brain. Camp number two is the complete opposite, believing that dreams are so deep as to be almost revelatory, offering us incredibly profound and spiritual insights into who we are. And camp three is a middle ground, perhaps, which sees dreams as neither divine nor meaningless, but rather reflecting the dreamer's lived reality, brain chemistry, and unconscious feelings. I'll share a little joke with you. Um, about 20 years ago, I was trying to dive deeply into my own dreams. And I would set an alarm for the middle of the night so it would wake me mid dream. And I had a journal by the side of my bed so I could write everything I was thinking in the moment. And then I would study the patterns over a month or two. Yeah, sounds crazy, right? So I wake up in the middle of the night one night from the alarm and I said, oh my gosh, I'm going to change the world. I have the most brilliant insight, and the world will never be the same again. I can't wait to publish this and transform the world. And so I scribble and I scribble and I write, and I am so excited when I wake up and I open this book and I take a deep breath, and it says, "My back hurts." And then there's a bunch of scribbles. Camp number one is in the realm of neuroscience, concerned with dreaming purely as a physiological phenomenon. Thanks to modern brain imaging, we now understand that when we talk about dreams, we are generally talking about a specific stage of sleeping. Sleep is not a monolithic experience. Rather, throughout the night, we move through predictable patterns of sleep stages. 3 stages of non-rapid eye movement sleep, NREM, followed by 1 stage of rapid eye movement sleep, REM. REM sleep was discovered in 1953 by researchers at the University of Chicago who were surprised by the amount of activity observed in the brain during REM sleep, which was determined to be when our most vivid dreaming occurs. Adults typically spend about 2 hours each night in REM sleep. Interestingly, although children sleep far more than adults, up to 17 hours a day for newborns, children do not dream more than adults, even though they sleep more. Studies show that children under the age of 7 report dreaming only 20% of the time when awakened from REM sleep. Conversely, adults awakened from REM sleep reported dreaming 80 to 90% of the time. It is in REM that a person might be observed to be twitching. Neuroscientists assert that as we dream during this sleep cycle, our brain sends signals to paralyze our bodies so that we cannot act out what we dream. Those small twitchy movements are essentially oversights that slipped by the brain's command. It follows that people who suffer with sleep disorders, such as sleepwalking, talking, and otherwise acting out violently in their sleep, are experiencing the failure of the paralysis that makes it possible for us to dream safely. The neuroscientific approach often considers dreaming as in no way meaningful. Dreams are considered to be simply the result of a mature, active brain processing without the external stimuli of the world and without any internal self-reflection. It was the researcher J. Allen Hobson who proposed that dreams were the result of random neurological signals from the brainstem that our cortex incorrectly interpreted as outside stimuli. In such schema, dreaming is understood as a chemical neurological phenomenon most likely related to the absence of serotonin, norepinephrine. Gary, you'll help me with that. Norepinephrine, something like that, and histamine in the brain, while both acetylchlorine and dopamine are present. Okay, excuse me for botching that. Now you know I got a B in my neuroscience class in grad school. That dreaming is a chemical phenomenon correlates to how various drugs shape our experience of dreaming by affecting our brain chemistry, particularly as it relates to REM sleep. Alcohol, for example, imbalances the function of neurotransmitter GABA, which relates to REM sleep, the resulting REM pressure by which our brains try to make up for REM sleep, is associated with nightmares. But barbiturates and benzodiazepine drugs have also been shown to produce the same REM pressure resulting in nightmares. Antidepressants affect our serotonin, and here's that word again, norepinephrine.
Norepinephrine.
Gary's having a great time over there. Both of which are part of the chemistry of dreaming. As a result of antidepressants are shown to lead to fragmented sleep and strange dreams. Another explanation for dreaming that neuroscientists have posited is that dreaming is more than anything a data dump, essentially when our brain stores the day's useful memories while also clearing the useless memories to conserve space. If such a process does occur, researchers suspect it would be an interplay between the hippocampus, the controller of memory, and the neocortex, the seat of higher thought. In general, neuroscience considers dreaming to be a fairly faithful replica of the experience of waking life, and our brain functions in REM do look much like our brain functions in waking life. Rather than the bizarre images we associate with dreams in popular culture, this school of thought asserts that most dreams are fairly coherent sequences based in lived memory and the abstraction of knowledge. This is to say, the dreams we have may not be in the least bit meaningful, but they are coherent reflections of our waking hours. Another scientific view of dreaming comes from a researcher at the University of, anybody Swedish here? How do you pronounce Skövde? Skövde? The University of Skövde in Sweden. Now you know my Swedish is as bad as my chemical my chemical neurotransmitters and drugs. Antti Revonsuyo proposes what he calls a threat stimulation theory, which posits that in dreams, our brain is responding to potential future dangers by running what amount of fire drills or dress rehearsals while sleeping. Dreams in which we are escaping from predators, preparing for tests, or engaging in conflict can all be seen as our brain making sure we are prepared for difficult situations when they arise in waking life. All of these neuroscience-based explanations are certainly fascinating and convincing. Notably, they would suggest that there's no reason for us to remember our dreams at all upon waking, and certainly no value in discussing those dreams. However, modern therapy has shown that there is actually great therapeutic benefit from reflecting on our dreams. This brings us to Camp 2, the approach that tells us that dreams are profound, perhaps even revelatory. Throughout time, various societies have believed that dreams contain messages from another realm. Even today, you can find dream dictionaries and other popular books about the secret messages of dreams. However, when we talk about Camp 2, I think it might be more illuminating to take a look at theorists who think of dreams not as secret messages from the divine, but rather as secret messages from the most deeply interior parts of our own selves. Many people who study the psyche function under the assumption that we as humans tend to push down the thoughts, feelings, and ideas that disturb us the most, repression. When we speak to the unconscious mind, we're generally speaking of a cachet of those most shameful and disturbing parts of ourselves. The modern psychoanalytic approach to the unconscious believes that our dreams reveal what we are afraid to see about ourselves in waking life. Simply put, dreams reveal the unconscious. It's hard to believe we're already this far and we haven't got to Jung and Freud yet. We will soon. Any theory of the psychological significance of dreams, and really any theory of the existence of the unconscious, is in considerable debt to the writings of Sigmund Freud. His earth-shattering book on the interpretations of dreams, first published in 1900, provided a theory of analyzing dreams for meaning that still holds strong today. Freud believed that our unconscious and all its forbidden impulses was formed in childhood and exerted power over us for the rest of our lives. Freud referred to dreams as the royal road to understanding the unconscious. For him, dreaming was a mental activity that used its own logic to communicate unconscious desires. Much of his writing aimed to reveal the unique logic and mechanism of his dreaming, of our dreaming. Freud was influenced by Tanya, and Chassidut, indirectly and sometimes directly. Freud's central ideas about dreams was that they represented the fulfillment of unconscious desires, i.e., forbidden wishes, often of a sexual nature, such as incest. Because of its shameful nature, this content was disguised in dreams, which is what can make dreams so perplexing and hard to parse. Interestingly, wish fulfillment is often considered the defining characteristic of daydreams, which are produced by our conscious mind as opposed to our mind in REM sleep. The other titan of early psychoanalysis was Carl Jung, both a proponent and critic of his contemporary Sigmund Freud. Of course, he was an early student of Freud, but one of the ways he distances himself is that Freud is going to understand that most repression comes from early childhood experiences. Whereas for Jung, so much repression is going to come from the lack of integration between the conscious, the personal unconscious, and the collective unconscious. Also, while Freud's going to tap into the Oedipus complex, Jung is going to go much deeper into complexes that based on disassociation of personality. Okay, more on that later. Like Freud, Jung asserted that by paying attention to our dreams, we will see things about ourselves and our unconscious that we're otherwise unwilling, perhaps afraid, to see. Unlike Freud, Jung put significantly less emphasis on sexual neurosis, which, as we know, was at the heart of Freud's theories of the unfulfilled wishes of the unconscious. By the way, when we call it sexual, he doesn't just mean sex as we know sex today. He means much more about the fulfillment of desire of a young child. And you want a nurse and you can't nurse. You want food and you can't get it. You want mommy and she's not coming. Right? These desires become sexual. He understands, but it's much deeper than just what physical sex we talk about today. Although certainly that's a big part of it. Furthermore, while Freud asserted that dreams traffic in obfuscation, Jung believed that dreams do not obfuscate information, but rather lead us towards wholeness. His theories of dreaming have a deeply spiritual quality, imagining dreams as engaging in archetypal symbols that reflected a society's collective unconsciousness. Jung was interested in the interplay between the conscious and unconscious. He likened our consciousness to a ship floating on the great sea of the unconscious. The activity of the unconscious deeply influences the direction of the ship. As well, the sea of unconscious contains all kinds of precious resources that are not visible from the surface. To become enlightened, wrote Jung, was to bring light to that which is hidden in the darkness. And it is dreams that offer us such an opportunity. Perhaps more fantastically, Jung also believed that because the unconscious is connected to the biology of the body, our dreams could reveal to us unknown information about physical sickness. Meaning, long before any symptoms are present, our unconscious can disclose to us through dreams an illness in, say, our organs. Much of the modern study of dreams, oneirology as it's called, exists in a middle ground between what I've called Camp 1 and Camp 2. This middle ground considers dreams to both be a chemical neurological function of the brain and a helpful, meaningful reflection of our mental state. Many psychologists understand common dreams as a reflection of how we feel about our waking lives, even if we are unaware of those feelings. Think about dreams of falling or other fears. For example, dreams of helplessly falling are often linked with insecurities and anxieties in our lives, perhaps indicating that something in our life is out of control. In this middle ground approach, dreams are both meaningful indications of our mental state and the products of chemicals in our brains that can be affected by, for example, thank you so much, the medications we take. Now that we have explored the modern psychological approaches to dreaming, I now want to explore the presence of dreaming in the Torah. Dreams appear frequently in Torah, in cases many of us are familiar with, and with great significance. Chronologically, the honor of the very first dream in the Torah belongs to, not who we think, but King Avimelech, when God visits him in a dream to warn him that he must return Sarah to her husband Abraham. This is Genesis chapter 20, verses 3-7, if you want to revisit over there. There's also, of course, the most famous dream with Yaakov in Genesis 28 of a ladder with angels, Sulam Yaakov, going up and down from heaven. And all the countless interpretations of Sulam Yaakov. Why are the angels going down and up? What does that mean for us? As with Avimelech, God speaks to Yaakov in his dream, promising Yaakov that the ground he is sleeping upon will be given to him and his offspring. In both these cases, we see dreams functioning as a place where humans can receive messages from the divine. In the Genesis narrative of Yosef, dreams are especially present. Initially, there are the dreams of Joseph that so enrage his brothers. First, of sheaves of wheat bowing down to him, then of the sun and moon and 11 stars bowing down to him. Yosef's brothers are irate at the thought that they would bow down to him as the dream suggests. However, this is exactly what eventually happens with Pharaoh when Pharaoh appoints him vizier in Egypt, and Yosef's brothers came and bowed low to him with their faces to the ground. Indeed, for Joseph, dreams are portents to be interpreted. In prison, he interprets the dreams of fellow inmates correctly, predicting that Pharaoh's cupbearer will be restored to his position, but the chief baker will be executed. Once in Pharaoh's palace, Yosef interprets two dreams of Pharaoh's to predict and ultimately prevent a famine. Pharaoh has been shown what God is about to do. Yosef tells Pharaoh, in fact, because both of Pharaoh's dreams have the same message of predicting famine, first in images of cows, then in grain, there's a Talmudic teaching that dreams that repeat several times are ultimately fulfilled. So a few weeks, so we have a special minhag in my family, a special custom that after Shabbat we watch a family movie. At least when I don't have a Saturday night program or a funeral or whatever else I have to do, funeral intake. And it's the winter, not the summer. It's an old custom dating back to Poland in the 18th century. Family movie on Saturday night. Maybe your family has this custom as well. Only Ashkenazim have it. Sephardim don't have it. Anyways, and as part of the custom, the kids fight about which movie they will agree on. And the two oldest and the youngest agreed on Indiana Jones. Child number 3 feels Indiana Jones is too scary. And she said, I love what we're learning in school about Joseph. Are there any movies about him? I said, well, you're in luck. There's actually a play about him. And in comes Donny Osmond and my daughter Maya and I singing Joseph in the Technicolor Dreamcoat all night while the other kids are watching Indiana Jones. And it's actually a remarkable play, even though it's got lots of flaws and things that I would change. But it's just so cool when Torah comes to life on stage. So does God really communicate to us in dreams as occurs in the Torah? It's not so simple, of course. Even some of the greatest Jewish scholars and rabbis have debated how literally to understand the more fantastical elements of the Torah, including dreams. The great medieval rabbi and philosopher known as the Rambam teaches that the Torah is to be understood not literally, but allegorically. He arrives at this conclusion by contemplating references to God's physicality in the Bible. If we know that God is an eternal being and therefore not limited to a finite corporeal body, the Rambam wonders, what is the meaning of a Torah verses that would seem to refer to God's physical body? The examples he gives include beneath God's feet or written with the finger of God. The Rambam concludes that these are allegories written in language that humans can understand. So too, Torah verses in which God appears in dreams can be understood as allegories, not examples of how we can expect our own dreams to function. Similarly, the Rambam understands some of the more surreal elements of Torah, for example, Bilam and his talking donkey in Numbers 22, as metaphorical occurrences that are happening in a kind of prophetic dream state. He says, of course, donkeys don't talk. Don't make our religion ridiculous. This is obviously a dream. This would make the talking donkey more of a divine hallucination. According to the Rambam, nearly all the prophets receive prophecy from God in a trance or a dream state, rather than talking to God directly. This is an important point. Prophets receive prophecy, according to Maimonides, only through a dream state, never directly. One exception, of course, is Moshe. This is what makes him the greatest prophet of all that Moshe alone speaks to God directly, Maimonides teaches, not in a dream like every other prophet. When it comes to how significant we should consider our own dreams, the Talmud is characteristically not of one mind. In Tractate Brachot, the rabbis say that dreams are 1/60th prophecy. Well, this is quite an intriguing statement. If dreams are any amount of prophecy, what would appear to make dreams very significant. However, the ratio of 1/60th is actually the exact ratio of the halachic category of nullification called bittul. 1/60th is considered a negligible amount. So when something is 1 part unkosher and 60 parts kosher, say a drop of milk in a meat dish, the dish is not rendered unkosher. Given the ratio of bittul, saying dreams are 1/60th prophecy might be saying that they are a negligibly prophetic and overwhelmingly meaningless. This perspective is echoed elsewhere in the Talmud, where Rabbi Meir teaches that dreams neither add nor subtract, meaning they should not be given any consideration. On the other side of the coin, the Talmud often treats dreams as profoundly significant. We are told a dream not interpreted is like a letter not read, meaning each dream has a message for the dreamer waiting to be interpreted. In Tractate Brachot, there's a lengthy discussion on the various meanings of images and dreams. One rabbi teaches that seeing a river, a bird, or a pot in a dream are signs of peace. Another that seeing a well in your dream means you have found Torah. However, our sages do not imagine that dreams have only one and fixed interpretation. In fact, the Talmud tells of a rabbi in Yerushalayim, in Jerusalem, who had a dream and went to each of the 24 dream interpreters who lived in Jerusalem at the time. All of them interpreted the dream differently, and each of those 24 interpretations came to pass. Conclusion, the rabbis say, all dreams follow the mouth. Chalamot holchim achar hapeh. This statement is usually taken to mean that how we interpret a dream can result in different real-world outcomes for us. It is the interpretation of the dream that shapes the future, not the dream itself. That the rabbis there caution, do not interpret someone's dream unless they have invited you to do so, because you have power as an interpreter. In an amusing Talmudic anecdote, we learn that when the Amorah, Shmuel, would have a bad dream, he would quote scriptures saying, and dreams speak falsely, which comes from Zechariah 10:2. However, when he had a good dream, he would say, and do dreams speak falsely? Isn't it written, I speak with him in a dream, which comes from Numbers 12:6. So for this great Torah scholar, dreams were either meaningless or meaningful depending on whether he wanted them to be. Similarly, the Talmud tells of a dream interpreter named Bar Hadaya, who interpreted dreams favorably for those who gave him a fee, and unfavorably who did not give him a fee. I'm sure the prophets had nice things to say about such a person. An example, for a rabbi who did pay a fee, Bar Hadaya interpreted a dream of pomegranates to mean that the rabbi's business would increase in value like a pomegranate. But for a rabbi who did not pay a fee, Bar Hadaya interpreted an identical dream of pomegranates to mean that rabbi's business would sour like a pomegranate. By the way, there is an insult to someone whose name in the Talmud is Ben or Bar, meaning son of, and they don't give him a name. Think of Ben Zoma. His name is not Moshe Ben Zoma, or his name is actually Shimon, but we call him Ben Zoma, the son of Zoma. Right? So too, this guy's name is Bar Hadaya. He's the son of Hadaya. We don't even give him a name. Our sages are teaching us that how we interpret our dreams shapes our futures. If we interpret a dream as foretelling something bad will happen. But if we interpret it as foretelling something positive will happen. As the Baal Shem Tov taught, think good and good will happen. This leads to the practice of a ritual known as hatavat chalom, or the amelioration of dreams, which is outlined in the Talmud itself. After having a disturbing dream, the dreamer is to gather 3 friends who understand the power of dreams to form a Beit Din of friends. Ideally, this will happen the day after the disturbing dream. The Talmud tells us that the dreamer should say, I saw a good dream, and their friend should respond, it is good, and let it be good, and may God make it good. May they decree upon you from heaven 7 times that will be good, and it will be good. Following this, various biblical verses are recited. Even today, the entire liturgy for Hatavat Chalom is found in many Sidurim. Alternatively, one can ameliorate a bad dream by reciting a specific section of the priestly blessing known as Rabbono Shel Olam, Master of the Universe. So friends, if you have a traditional Sidur and you look in your traditional prayer book, you will see that there are still prayers there for what a Beit Din can do together if you have a nightmare. Okay, more on nightmares soon. Historically, there has also been a practice of fasting for the day after a particularly disturbing dream. The Talmud teaches that if one has a bad dream on Friday night, one may even fast on Shabbat to neutralize the dream, even though it's generally forbidden to fast on Shabbat, except for Yom Kippur. However, there is a catch. If you fast on Shabbat, You must then fast on another day of the week in addition in order to atone for violating the mitzvah of enjoying Shabbat. In modern Ashkenazi communities, one does not see the practice of fasting after a dream. However, I'm told that in Sephardic Jewish communities, the tradition still exists. So, by the way, Sephardic Jews put more weight on dream interpretation than Ashkenazi Jews do, except in the Hasidic world. Hasidic Jews, Kabbalists do a lot with this. And Sephardic Jews, the rabbis think of themselves as dream interpreters. Nobody has come to me in my rabbinate. I'm very sad, and I feel my rabbinic training has been wasted, and come to me to give a deep dream interpretation. But Sephardic rabbis are commonly asked to do such things. Mystical Jewish sources pay special attention to dreaming. The Zohar, the great Kabbalistic text, considers dreaming to be a journey of the soul. At night, all things return to their original root and source, the Zohar says. When a person lies in bed, the soul goes out and wanders the world above. When the dreamer awakes, it is the soul that tells the person about the dream. In general, the Kabbalists consider the dream to have a transformative quality. Some have likened encounters with the divine to a dream. An interesting tie-in to modern psychology is that Carl Jung himself was influenced by the Kabbalistic tradition. It's worth considering what dreams might offer us in terms of our moral growth. My own belief is that dreams are a gift from God to cultivate empathy. This is especially true of nightmares, as nightmares allow us to experience a phenomenon otherwise foreign to us. Imagine a nightmare in which you're being chased. You are running as fast as you can, but it's not fast enough. Whatever is chasing you is gaining on you, no matter how desperately you try to speed up. You wake up wondering, what does this mean? The schools of thought I've thus far discussed would have various explanations. Anything from reflecting our own anxiety to predicting something good or bad. However, I'd like us to consider that a dream of fleeing is an opportunity to cultivate empathy for the experience of refugees. How else would the experience of fleeing danger become so real that it feels it is happening directly to us? Through such a nightmare, we have greater insight into the experience of being a refugee who must flee their home to survive. And we will therefore be more attuned to the emotional realities of that experience in any advocacy we do. Friends, to conclude, dreams also have the potential to lead to moral growth by revealing to us our own blind spots. All of us have biases. We have traumas, we have fears, we have anxieties, and unconscious assumptions we carry. These very real human limitations can hinder our ability to live authentically as ourselves and to be of service to others. Therefore, spending a little time engaging with our unconscious realm, be that reflecting on our dreams in a dream journal or analyzing those dreams in therapy, offers us a potential path towards becoming increasingly aware of our deepest selves, what drives us and what affects us. Whether dreams are from God, from the deeply submerged unconscious, or from truly random neurons firing, they present us with the possibility of growth and change. Okay, my dear friends, that's it for me. I would love to hear from you. Okay, yes, Janie, let's start with you.
I think the part that stuck in my mind for hours of concentration later is that the interpretation of dreams is what impacts our lives or shapes our future. And I started thinking about parents with kids. As long as they're at home, if they have a good dream and they share that, the parents, praise them and start to reward them for having a good dream. Or if they have a nightmare, oh, don't worry, everything is fine. That's just a bad dream. What if to me, the interpretation is important if it has to be by the self. In other words, having someone else, a professional, a psychologist, whatever, interpret your dreams is a step away from you and what it means to you personally. So the interpretation of the dream has to be by an individual. When can that happen and how can it happen best? goes back to parents raising children. When a child has a dream, instead of saying, "Oh, that's nice," or
Mm,
"Don't worry about it," what do you think that means? And
mm,
and how can you react to it when you wake up? Uh,
mhm.
how can it change who you are, make you a better person? I think that goes back to the parents. So the ultimate interpreter of dreams is the individual, but that can be guided from toddlerhood by parents by
Mm.
saying, first of all, what does that mean to you? What really happened? And how can that shape your future in terms of
Great.
what you
Janie, one follow-up question, because I love what you're saying. And it's really powerful to think about not just going to a rabbi or a Beit Din or a psychologist, but it's starting to give kids the tools to interpret. How do you think about interventions if their interpretations are in fact negative, if they feel unsafe in the world because of their dreams? How do you think about supporting them in the interpretation in that case?
well, I think it's something that good parenting does all the time. If a child is afraid of the dark, what do? We don't just let them sit with that fear. We
Yeah.
take them into a dark room and we
Mm,
walk with them. We feel things. We turn on the light.
mm,
So I mean, unfortunately, it's down to good parenting, and we
mm.
can't guarantee that every parent is a good parent.
Yeah.
But
Awesome.
yeah.
Katie, it's a great insight. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love that. All right, who else wants to hop in? Thank you.
Yeah, I guess I'll kind of riff off of that because I generally don't remember dreams. And I'm wondering if that was because of what nightmares I still remember from childhood. Um, Remembering, like getting a pair when I was about 3 or 4 years old, getting a pair of white kid gloves and being really excited about these beautiful gloves that my aunt had brought from Paris, and having those gloves walk along the wall in the night, reach down and try to strangle me. Now, I don't know how parents should appropriately have protected or helped me work that through. Um, but, I saw them then run into the closet. And of course, when I went to get my parents, my mother showed me there was nothing in the closet. The next day, they examined the closet. Um, Nonetheless, the few nightmares that I still remember from childhood, I don't know if that has told my unconscious brain, I really don't want to go those places.
Mhm.
Thank you very much. On the other hand, vivid dreaming was a completely new phenomenon for me. The first time I had a vivid dream and actually saw myself dreaming this thing and going, well, isn't that interesting? Um, and that made dreaming once again more interesting. And I'm grateful that even if I don't remember them, that my brain is doing its best to sort through whatever conscious activities of the day and put them away in neat piles and help to raise to the surface whatever needs to be worked out so that the next morning, indeed, I can go on with my day.
Mm. Very nice, Sarah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all that. Another thing you reminded me of as well is how many people tell me that they have felt visited by deceased loved ones in their dreams, whether it was a parent or a spouse or a child. Um, that is not rare at all. Some people don't talk about it publicly, but that they have felt those types of presence or visits. Yeah.
I had to actually tell my mother she was dead in a dream. I was like, Mom, you died? She hasn't shown up in a dream since, but I
Ah,
had to explain it to her because she didn't know. So,
wow.
yes,
Thank
I
you.
know that feeling.
Thank you, Sarah. Yes, David and then Stan.
Oh, yes. I was impressed when you said wish fulfillment is the same thing as daydreams. So I'm thinking that being in a dream state is very natural, even when you're not sleeping. Think of poetry, think of art, having hopes, dreaming a dream. That's a very natural, positive human activity. And my other thought is that I've heard our rabbi say, when you're born, you're closer to God. You just came out of heaven, and the same when you're in your last days, you're going back to God. And for my mom, who is in assisted living, memory not good, she's really living moment to moment. I'm thinking she's almost in a dream state. I ask her, "Are you feeling good?" Yes, I'm feeling good. So I'm hoping and praying that dream states are a good thing, a medical thing when you're suffering and in need. I'm hoping that she's kind of in a good dream, partially in reality, but that's my hope.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah. And I appreciate what you said, because I think part of what we're talking about here is that being awake and being asleep is not a binary. There's a whole spectrum between those, and there's the whole realm of the imaginative and the creative and the wanting that moves one out of what some might call reality or pure consciousness into other realms of of knowing. So there's so much to say there. But yeah, let's go to Stan. Hi, Stan.
Hi. Let's bring it back to Torah. We always have to come back to Torah, and that is
Great.
the dream of Jacob becoming Yisrael is as a result of a dream. But the question is that really a dream, or is that a message to all of us to wrestle with God? Yisrael, we always said he wrestled with God. And every Jew, and I think every non-Jew at the time, everybody wrestles with God. And I thought that was the message. And I thought it was just more of a method of teaching, just like Joseph's dreams as well. But I was one of the ones who said they're nonsense on your poll, to full disclosure. But we've all had dreams to say, what am I thinking? So
Yes.
well,
VBM's pluralism extends to those of us who think dreams are nonsense, to those of us who think that dreams are everything. So we have the whole range here, and I love that. And yes, you're exactly right. I think that going back to the wrestling where Yaakov becomes Yisrael, because of his ability to wrestle, and what it means to be a Jew is to be a wrestler, not just at peace with the world, but really protesting, struggling, learning, seeking, challenging, questioning. That's so central to what we're trying to do here together. And it takes a lot of different things for us to all be comfortable doing that. Some people can only kind of seek, after a glass of wine. Some can only do it in a dream state. Some can do it, in a learning space. What does it take for us to, to engage in that wrestling? So yeah, awesome, Stan. Thank you so much. Yes. Hi. Hey, Ken.
I think the thing that struck me the most about what you have been talking about and what we're talking about here is the importance that one has a choice as to how one interprets a dream. If dreams are worth interpreting at all, to riff off of Stan, but to that extent, it gives us something to wrestle with and to decide whether it's good or bad, to decide whether the outcome is going to be positive or going to be negative. I'm also like Sarah. I almost never remember any dreams that I have now. I'm not sure exactly what that reason is. And even when I do remember them for a second or two, they're gone very quickly after that. And so, but even that glimpse gives you something to think about sometimes, and it gives you an opportunity to reflect on your life, which is why clearly everything is neurological in the brain. Obviously, it's all chemicals. So is our conscious thought. So is our speech. It's just a chemical reaction. There's nothing more to it than that, I guess, right? But we all think that what we think means something. I mean, as Descartes said. Uh, so while it is all just chemical, it also has something deeper in its meaning, and it's hard to argue that any thought that you have is just chemical, although it is at that biological level just chemical.
Awesome, Ken. Thank you so much. Mara, let's give you the last comment here, Mara.
It reminds me of our conversation a couple weeks ago. The meaning is what you make of it, right? So even if scientific reshelving process of events, right? Like I have a stressful life. I dream constantly. I'm constantly moving through problems at night. And the meaning to me is what you make of it either way. So.
Awesome. Stan, I see your hand went up. Stan, you want to make a last word comment?
This is me. This is Cheryl.
Oh, hi, Cheryl.
Hi. I think bringing it back to what you spoke about earlier about Joseph in this Technicolor Dreamcoat. I mean, I think of Broadway all the time, but I think dreams are aspirational. And is it in addition to inspirational? So when I think of the song, I mean, you started talking and I started singing in my head from Les Mis. I dream a dream of days gone by. I mean, you can be fully awake and being and dreaming of something, you know, a better life, a better time, a better you. I mean, I think that there's so many ways to be dreaming while, you know, by being totally conscious. So it's not an unconscious thing all the time, but a conscious thing.
Amazing. Friends, I love your insights always. And today, nobody disappointed with the richness of reflections and insights. So thank you so much. Have a beautiful day.